What's up, y'all? Focus Daily TV back in here. Hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel. Hashtag Focus Daily TV. Lately, these few couple weeks, we've been speaking about debt slavery in HJR 192, which gave birth to the Federal Reserve and introduced fiat currency into our economy. And we spoke about how this fiat currency is backed only by the souls of the people. They teach us that it's backed by nothing, but in actuality, it is backed by bondsmen and bondswomen who have been bonded to the system through registrations and vital statistics, birth certificates, social security numbers. Now, there is actually a true value behind all of this, and the true value is held in what is called a trust in a bank in London, in banks overseas, in the Vatican. It was the Crown and the Vatican that designed this system, this system of bondsmen and bondwomen. Today we're going to go a little bit into this trust. Once again, we're going to watch a small film. We've seen this film previously, but I feel like now is a great time to come back to it again in order to assess all the information that I've been presenting and bring it all together in order to get a better understanding of this truth that I'm presenting. Excuse me. Okay, without any further ado, let's let it begin.
I've spent a few minutes reading this stuff once, so I'll give you guys the benefit of what we figured out. And I'll try to move through this really quick, and just tell me if I'm going too fast, or tell me if you've had enough and you want him to come up and speak again. Just let me know.
I'm mostly gonna just let it play, but pay attention to the wording he's using. Put your discernment cap on. He's presenting valuable truth, which shall make us all free.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
Once upon a time, there was a area known as Turtle Island. Sick. That's what certain people.
And once again, he's presenting this from the perspective of Canadians. However, this same system is used all around the world to enslave men into a form of debt slavery, a form of slavery that is based on the souls of men, as Revelation speaks of, the selling of the souls of men.
We'll refer to it as. And there was people on the land over here. And this lady or some of her agents came over and met with these people. And they said, look at all these resources you guys have. This is awesome. Can we set up shop and do some business? And these guys went, sure. Because they had no idea what that meant, really. And plus, they didn't really understand the language that much. So there was an agreement put in place. Most of you in the logging industry will know that there's usually a 64.
Keep in mind that most of this information is based on the educational system interpretation of these events. They knew, they spoke the language, but they agreed to go into a deal with these foreign entities, once again, rather than following the will, the laws and commandments of the Bible, of God, of the Father.
40 agreement, somebody comes in, logs your bush, right? It's the guy doing the work, and usually the people owning the property get it a cut like that. So what they agreed to do is set up a little store, and I'm not sure if I'm infringing on a copyright here, but we'll just call it a Walmart. So the 60% goes to her organization. She had a corporation that does business. Known as Her Majesty. And Her Majesty had a bank where she borrows money from, known as the Crown. So any money that this little shop made, 60% of it went to Her Majesty, went to Her Majesty's bank, known as the Crown. And they did her books for her. The 40% went to these people, but these people didn't really know what to do with it anyway. They didn't need it. So
Just consider those people to be the African Americans, the true owners of this continent of North America, the true owners of the world. The world was given to us by birthright through the Father.
So Her Majesty organized a trustee. And then these people
Like in Genesis.
ended up also banking for these people. How convenient. And this corporation did all right, and then they said sooner or later they started up a second and a third.
Consider that corporation the American corporation. America is really just one big corporation with individual states of corporaticity, if that's even a word.
And a fourth corporation inside the territory. Now, this agreement was in place. These people, or the corporations, exported lots of products and cut down as many trees and killed as many animals as they could, shipped it all over, wherever they wanted to.
Now, this deal is currently still in effect, so pay attention and watch this.
And 60% went to there, went to her bank account, 40% went to here, to this bank account. And the people in here work in the store. They all wore the blue uniform of Her Majesty, or I guess the red, we'll call it red, sure. And they were all bound by the laws of this corporation. Okay? These people were her subjects. They weren't Canadians, they weren't Americans, they were British people. Then around that time, these people started traveling the world and they realized that they could issue passports, and they did. So I'm leaving this very general and very quick, right? But so these people were able to issue passports because they had land, language, and culture, and they were their own nation. These people were subjects of her. Then after a while, these guys got into a little bit of financial trouble, and they merged. Upper Canada was still solvent, Lower Canada. Well, if the one was still solvent, that means
The beginning of the created financial disasters that they create. Wall Street crashing, the economy crashing, recession.
the other one wasn't. So they merged these two and they formed the province of Canada, and then the Crown renewed the loans to these corporations. And then after a while, they got into more trouble, and then they formed the Dominion of Canada. And then the Crown again renewed her loans to keep this corporation afloat.
Once again, it's the same cycle over and over again. Same plays over and over again, all the way up till current time.
And of course, 40% every time something leaves here, 40% is going into the trust fund. These people here are still all wearing the Walmart.
And keep in mind, we're speaking about this trust fund on today's episode. This trust fund that has been occurring entrance for the last 200 plus years. This trust fund that truly belongs to the indigenous people of this land. This is our money, y'all. We already rich. We just need to get our mind right, get our spirit right, and come back home to the Father and following his laws, commandments, and guidelines.
Walmart uniform being owned, the corporation being owned by Her Majesty.
Stand up and become the people that we were truly meant to be, the light of this world.
Renewed the loans to these corporations. And then after a while, they got into more trouble, and then they formed the Dominion of Canada. And then the Crown again renewed her loans to keep this corporation afloat. And of course, 40% every time something leaves here, 40% is going into the trust fund. These people here are still all wearing the Walmart uniform, being owned, the corporation being owned by Her Majesty, sitting on the land, having the right to do business here, and that's it. And these people are still cashing in still accruing their 40% into a trust fund. So then they started again building a railroad across.
They got a legal document known as the Cester QV Trust. We went a little bit into that, but it stated that unless you can prove that you are alive, the trust fund belongs to the Queen. So technically, we're labeled as dead and lost at sea, and a kinsman must come to claim us and to declare that we're alive. And that kinsman is the Messiah, Christ himself.
And that bankrupted this corporation again.
All of God's children are part of the body of Christ. Christ is a bloodline, a lineage. It is his blood that shall save the world.
And funny thing happened that this corporation's revenue fund got merged with the Indian Trust Fund. And all of a sudden, these guys became a country and could issue passports.
It's just like one big fairy tale, one big story. But they withheld who each individual character in the story are and who they represent. Once you know who the characters are, it all begins to form a big picture.
But if you want to be a country and issue passports, you need land, language, and culture. Does everybody see what happened? This thing was under a distress sale. The only money was sitting in this trust fund. The trustee of this trust fund said, hey, it's Walmart's 10 cents on the dollar.
See, it is that trust fund that funds the world economies. Everybody is taken from that trust fund except for the people that it truly belongs to, the African Americans, the Afro Americans. We're considered dead and lost at sea, so we have no access to our own funds. But the dead shall be risen. The Messiah, Christ, was the first to be risen from the dead, and he shall raise his people from the dead. Everybody has an opportunity for this salvation and redemption, but it is the Afro-Americans who are key. We need to become who we truly are meant to be, the light of this world. We need to go back to following the ways and traditions and the guidelines that the Father has placed before us in the form of the Bible, the Old Testament specifically. We need to get back to living according to his will, and the world will be ours.
Let's buy some stock. Now all of a sudden, all the people inside here are part of the corporation of Canada. They can issue passports and securities and all that other fun stuff, right? However, this still applies, right? So now the people that are born in here and I'm going to speak in regards to Ontario because I know those documents a little better, although we have the British Columbia ones here. You'll see them. If somebody, well, you guys will know what they look like more than I will. If some little baby is born in here, that baby, well, because of the marriage contract, the baby is now the property of Her Majesty. This baby gets registered with the vital statistics.
All right. That's it for today. We keep it short and sweet. Try to get people to grasp it in short increments. Hey, hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel. And until next time, Focus Daily, y'all. We out.